Hey there, and welcome to Costa Rica Story. And this episode is one I've been promising to do for a long time, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. It's frequently asked questions, and I'm not going to throw every frequently asked question in this video. I'm just going to throw a few out there, partially because it would be overwhelming because there's so many questions I get asked all the time, and partially because I keep track of stuff on these little cards, and I can't find a lot of my frequently asked questions. So I have enough here for a video. And if you have a question for me, you can drop it right down here in the comments in this video. I do ask a favor of you. If you do ask me a question, whether it's email or whether it's in the comments, and I do answer the question, please somehow acknowledge that you received the answer, because probably about 75% of the time when I answer people's questions, whether it's email or in the comments, I never know if they saw my response. And sometimes, like with the email questions, I'll spend 20 minutes on an email to somebody and they don't get back to me. And if you can do me just that small favor and let me know if you received my reply to your question, it means a lot to me just to know that it's been acknowledged. Thank you in advance for that. I'm always happy to answer any questions people have about the videos here. You can put your comments down below, and sometimes you might have a random question you can ask me by email or whatever. But if you have a lot of questions, you're making your move and you've got this whole list of questions, you're going to need to book a consultation with me. If you want me to have a vested interest in your travels here to Costa Rica, you need to have a vested interest in my business here and become a client. And if you do need that level of assistance, I'm more than happy to help you out with that at CostaRicaMove.com, or send me an email at hola@CostaRicaStory.com. So first question, how long have you lived in Costa Rica? I've lived in Costa Rica for about 2.5 years. I arrived in April of 2021. And yes, it feels already like this is my home. Why did you choose to move to Costa Rica? I chose Costa Rica as a place to live because I was looking for somewhere warm, and I originally had thought about different places in the US. I thought about Arizona, I thought about Florida and some of the warmer states in the US. But then I was exploring more options. I watched some different videos, and I really thought Costa Rica had a lot to offer. There was a lot of nature here. There's the beaches and things like that, and I wanted an adventure also. Also, that played a big role. I wanted something to stimulate me. You know, I was living a fairly boring life. And I tell this story sometimes how I watched a lot of videos and saw a lot of photos of the Uvita area, and I became a little bit obsessed with the whale tail. And I liken it to the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where Richard Dreyfuss's character is obsessed with this vision of the Devil's Tower, which is a great big mountain, and it's very steep. It's very unique looking. And he had this vision in his head of this tower, and he couldn't get it out of his head, and he was just totally obsessed with it. Turned out the Devil's Tower was where the alien ship landed, and that was like the big climax of that movie. So nothing dramatic like that has happened. I haven't seen any aliens at the whale tail yet, but I'll tell you that I was thinking about this the other day. The area of the national park, the only way I can describe it, it seems like powerful ground. When I'm there, you just feel this connection. Maybe it's a weird thing in my brain, but to me, I have a real connection to that area. Do you miss family and friends back home? Of course, I do miss family and friends. I do get back usually at least once a year to see everybody, but you know, people all have their own lives. A lot of people in my family they have their own families, and they're busy doing their thing, and we do stay in contact through social media and email and phone calls and all that fun stuff. There's another question along those same lines. Do you ever get lonely living by yourself? And yes, I moved here as a single guy coming to Uvita, and I didn't know anybody. It was very lonely at first. You go through when you first get here, you're like, oh my God, I don't know anybody here. What have I done? You know, those thoughts go through your head. Very briefly, but you push them away, and You go out and you meet people and you establish your new life here, which I have done. And the only times when it's really bad for me is when the power goes out or the internet goes out and I can't contact anybody for an extended period. That gets to me a little bit. And now I do have a lot of friends here. I do date, so I don't really get very lonely. I was probably had more lonely moments back in the States than I do here. What was the most difficult part of moving to Costa Rica? Oh, I mean, you can see in the videos, you can go back through the videos, like just making the transition of selling all of the stuff back in the States and making arrangements to be here in Costa Rica. There's no real one thing that was difficult. One thing that was hard to adjust to when I first got here was the no Amazon thing, because I was just so used to ordering something and having it right here, and you don't have that. Are you retired? No, I'm way too young to be retired. I have a consulting business here for people moving to Costa Rica or traveling here. You can go to CostaRicaMove.com and see more information about that. And I also do my famous Uvita Day adventure for those coming on vacation or coming to just learn more about Uvita. That can also be found at CostaRicaMove.com. So no, I'm not retired. And here's probably one of the most frequently asked questions, and it's, do you feel safe in Costa Rica? And this is going to have to be a whole separate video to address this properly, because everybody's perceptions are different. But to answer the question, yes, I feel safe here in Uvita, Costa Rica. But look for a video on this very topic in the near future. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll find out about that. Is there anything that you would do differently in your move to Costa Rica, in your life here? The only thing I would do differently is start saving money years ahead of time, so I would have more money, because you go through money fast here in Costa Rica, you'll wish you had more money. Always wish you had more money. And here's some more general Costa Rica questions. Are there sharks in Costa Rica, and do you worry about the sharks? Well, yeah, when there's an ocean, there's sharks. That's just how it goes. And there are sharks in Costa Rica. There's a lot of different species of fish here. It's very biodiverse in this area. And do you worry about sharks? I mean, theoretically, a shark can attack you. I mean, you see it all the time in the news in the States, but you don't see a lot of news about shark attacks in Costa Rica. And I find myself swimming out in the middle of the ocean. Sometimes on the kayaks, we go out, we'll just get out of our kayaks in the middle of the ocean. And if I thought about it too long, it probably would bother me. So it's one of those things, you put it out of your mind. And statistically, a shark attack isn't very likely, but just knowing it can happen kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies a little bit if you let yourself obsess over it. But a lot of people, they want to go on snorkeling tours to look at sharks and things. So, they're not the monsters that some of the movies may have you think that they are. So yes, there's sharks, and I don't let my fear of sharks limit me from spending time in the ocean. Do you worry about crocodiles? And yes, there are crocodiles in this area, and they frequent the places that I go. I don't normally see crocodiles, but I've seen videos of crocodiles in places, for instance, in beaches where I kayak or swim. Every once in a while, somebody will post a video of a crocodile that is swimming through. And a lot of times they're in the rivers. There's like little estuaries, kind of swampy areas. That's where you're most likely to see them, is in the rivers that come down into the ocean. But they do make their way out into the ocean, and a lot of times they'll swim from one river and go over to another river. So it's not a common sight to see them out in the surf. It's really not a common sight to see them, actually, but they are there. There's healthy populations of crocodiles all around. You do need to be careful of your dog. You can't let your dog go running off. That's one of the things crocodiles love. It's the little bite-sized snack of a dog. And when you first come here, maybe you want to travel around with some locals that can kind of give you a feel for what's safe and what's not safe. But crocodile's not an overwhelming concern, but something that you need to keep in mind. I think in Costa Rica, you need to have your alertness level up just a little bit, because there are these things you need to be aware of. You need to be smart. You need to educate yourself about all this stuff, the potential dangers. Are the mosquitoes bad? Now this depends on where you are. Costa Rica is a huge country, and if somebody says, oh yeah, the mosquitoes are bad here in Costa Rica, that's too general of a statement to make. Where I'm standing right now, mosquitoes are hardly ever a problem. Maybe towards sunset they'll start to come out. But if I step into the jungle or to the woods here, yeah, then the mosquitoes come out. And there's certain places. I was down in Sirpe, and I was walking along a path down there near the river, and the mosquitoes were they just wanted gringo blood. I had about 100 of them after me, and I actually was running just to get away from them. And foolishly, I didn't have any bug spray on, so that was my bad. But it can vary. Be prepared. If you're coming to Costa Rica, of course, come with bug spray and sunscreen and everything else that you need. Is the surfing good in Costa Rica? And that's a big thumbs up. I'll give you some of the beaches here. Tamarando, Jaco, Dominical, Pavones. Pavones is very famous for their long waves, and Witches Rock and Santa Rosa National Park. So if you come here to Costa Rica, you'll find a lot of surfing. You find a lot of surf shops. You can boogie board. I like the calmer waves myself on the kayak, because I've been swamped so many times on the kayak, it's not even funny. Can I use my cell phone in Costa Rica? Now, if your carrier has an international plan, you can do that, but that can be very expensive. It depends on your carrier. You need to check with your carrier to see if they do that. And if your phone is unlocked and you can switch out cards, when you come here, you can get a local SIM card, like a Colby card, or one of the other carriers here in Costa Rica, and you'll get a Costa Rica phone number, and you buy the data and put it on the card, so you can do it that way. And if you don't have a GPS, you're really going to want a phone that's got data that's usable, because you're going to need that for your GPS. I always use Waze here in Costa Rica. Is Costa Rica an island? People actually ask that. No, Costa Rica is not an island. So is the heat really bad in Costa Rica? I found here in Uvita, it doesn't really get extremely hot. It can get like in the low 90s, but the hard part here is the humidity. It tends to be extremely high humidity, and combined with warm temperatures, it can get uncomfortable. But it definitely is, the humidity is the bigger issue than the heat. Does it rain a lot in Uvita? Uvita gets a lot of rain, and it depends on the year. The first 2 years I lived here, this time of year we got a ton of rain. This year, the weather patterns have changed, so it's actually been a very dry green season. So I miss the rain, actually. We're starting, it's October, so we're starting to get a little bit more rain at night, a little bit more of those real heavy downpours, which are fun. But this year, the rain has been not as frequent. We're in a deficit. So when is the best time to visit Costa Rica? So if you're coming here to Uvita and you want your best chance of having mostly sunny weather, that's a chance of it. It's not guaranteed. You'll probably come mid-December into mid-March. You have your best chance of having dry weather. That being said, do you really want completely total sun all the time? For me, the answer is no. I like the green season better. The dry season is okay because it's Costa Rica, but because everything is great in Costa Rica, but I prefer when we've had some rain and things are greener, and it tends to be a little cooler and the sun is not as intense. Sometimes one of the greatest things to see in the sky is a big cloud coming over to cover the sun, so it protects you from the sun a little bit. Like if you're walking down the street on a really hot day, you're looking for the shade. You're walking on the shady side of the street, and when this big beautiful cloud comes over and falls in front of the sun, you can feel yourself cool down 10 degrees just like that. So the best time to visit Costa Rica, I think the green season is underestimated. It's a mistake to totally rule out like the green season or the rainy season. And if you really like whales, coming to Uvita, the whale watching season starts in the middle of July and it goes all the way up into November. And that's a really good time to be here to see whales. Right now is a very good time to be here to see whales. So if I was giving advice to family or friends about coming here to Costa Rica, specifically Uvita, I would say any time you can get here is a time to go, because a lot of times schedules don't allow for everything to be lined up just right. And every time of year here has something different. If you've been here like in January, if you come here in July, it's going to be different. So I would definitely say like now is the time to come to Costa Rica, anytime that you can get here. So stop worrying about the timing of your vacation and just get here. And if you need some help exploring the Uvita area, I've got my famous Uvita Day Adventure. And you'll find more information about that at CostaRicaMove.com. I also help people that are moving to Costa Rica, give you a consultation, help you find a place to live, and a plethora of other things. I can hook you up with an immigration attorney. I can hook you up with a real estate agent. CostaRicaMove.com. But that's all I've got for this edition of Costa Rica Story. Make sure you like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, but most importantly, share this video and this channel with a friend. Hasta luego.